Welcome to the Leads Are Sht. This is a real estate magazine podcast, and we're here with the owner of Real Estate Magazine, Andrew Fogliato. He's also the founder of Just Sell Homes. That's a real estate marketing company for realtors so that they can focus on other things like just selling homes. And myself, I'm Taylor Hack. I am a team leader in Edmonton, Alberta, and a huge real estate nerd that's traveled North America over a decade to figure out how the people that do this best do this. And I got to tell you, man, it really put my mind at ease once I met a few top producers.
It made
They
you
are not
realize that
a
they're not
totally
special.
buttoned up bunch, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing that gives you more confidence than meeting super successful people and then seeing that they're not that different than you.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Oh, we
great.
got
Now,
some
there,
people
once
coming
in a while
in.
you meet someone who is, but that's rare. Yes,
Jeff White from
Narn, Colby.
Peterborough starts us off today because he knows what
Yeah,
to do. You got to say
yeah,
who you are and where you're from because real estate is a geographically based contact sport.
yep.
So good to see those people that are shouting it out so far. And if you are in our live audience, you can do that. And if you're not, you should be here next time. You can find
Yep.
us on the Real Estate Magazine website. The Leads Are Sht is our podcast. And we got to take it on the road last week.
This week.
Yes,
That was this week. That was two
still this
days
week.
ago.
I feel like
That was
when I
literally
go
2 days
there,
ago.
I time
Yeah,
travel. And
I
looking
know that
at
feeling.
the screen right now, I can tell you I look like I've time traveled.
Did
I
you ever watch the Rock growing up?
Oh,
The
the movie with Sean Connery?
and Nick Cage.
Yeah,
There's like
that's
a
a great.
scene where he
I'm
like
afraid to watch that now. I feel like it wouldn't hold up.
it holds up
Mm.
very, very well. But it's like there's a scene where he like finds out he like says he doesn't want kids, and then at the end he's like, gosh, well, kind of a lot's happened since then. And it's like 5 seconds later. I feel like that's this week of like we literally just saw each other on Tuesday, and it feels
Mm.
like it was 2 weeks ago. Well, gosh, kind of a lot's happened since then.
Yeah, I could definitely understand that. And what happened is I flew into Pearson Airport and ended up going to Andrew's house. They've had me over several times. It's actually kind of awesome. And what I mean by that is what a great experience. Like warm house, that you have a great house.
Agreed.
Uh, and get to see Amanda, which is it's better than seeing you, and that's pretty good.
I don't disagree.
We also had some meetings related to my marketing that we'll be unpacking in future podcasts because when we make changes as the guinea pig, we always want to reel out those adjustments. And then we went and talked to a few people live. And this is something that we have not done before together, but a whole bunch apart. Andrew has way more reps than I do. And for me, I've been on some of the coolest stages. Like, I've been at FubCon. I've spoke at Remax R4. I've spoke at Richard Robbins a whole bunch. That was the first guy to trust me with
Yep.
audiences over 1,000. But I also have not shared the stage a whole bunch aside from panels.
Yeah, it's actually a harder thing than like I would way rather when you're starting out do it on your own because it lets you control. It's a much harder thing when you're doing it with someone. I feel it'd be like trying to do a listing presentation with someone,
Hmm.
right? Like it's harder to do that with two than it would be
And I
one.
think that I really benefited from your reps in this one because like you're easy to speak with. You just kind of roll with the flow. And it's kind of
Yep.
fun that way because for me, I pay a lot of attention to structure.
Yeah.
So I was on the radio recently and they're like, yeah, we need your answers to be like around a minute-ish. And I was like, if you tell me 55 seconds, I can hit that 4 to 5 times. And the
Yeah.
other time will be like give or take a second.
Literally, my
And,
favorite thing as a speaker is when you're on stage and it's one of the places that has the timer and
Mhm.
you're finishing your last sentence as it goes 3, 2, 1. Like that, when you get it like that, no one else sees that except for you and like the event organizer. But it feels so good when you just
See,
get
I
it.
always talk to the techs. I always talk to the head tech that's like running the show, the producer.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was going on at FubCon, I was like, "How you doing for time?" He's like, "Man, we are like super tight, and the lunch is going to be here, and so on." And I was like, "Okay, you guys have given me 30 minutes. I could deliver you a 24." All of my slides are pictures so I can compress and expand. You tell me. And like that guy was like, "You really do that?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like it to keep people six, like to be the guy they remember right before everything wasn't good. Not what I want. I'm going to
Was it
deliver on time.
like basically every professional speaker training you do, they talk about that of like you want to be the one that saves them instead of the one that keeps going. Like you have to be so good if you're going to consistently go over and get that reputation. Like you need to get standing ovations if you're going to be going over like one time, whatever. But yeah, like even when I was at the Remax conference in Halifax with you, like that was a 60-minute presentation that got cut down to 30. And then like 10 minutes before I went up, because they had to catch up on time, I got cut another 10. And it was like in a couple minutes, and you could see how happy the tech guys were. But I also had like made a point of like getting to know them that morning and like building a good relationship. It's one of those things like build a good relationship with the people kind of running the show.
Absolutely. Because a lot of the
Yeah.
time, the same people book them. And sometimes they also like somebody cancels and they're like, "Hey, what
Yeah.
about that Taylor guy?" And
And
now you
they're
got a new
more
spot.
likely to help you. Like little things you'll see, like if I bet like if I there, my mic like worked on like stopped working on stage because of the relationship I built, they would run a new one up. Other
Mm.
people, they would like, all right, I guess we'll get them a new like there's that you
Or
can
they might be the
see the
reason your
difference.
mic is a little
Yeah.
low.
Start messing with you. But like it does pay. Like I know some speakers, I haven't done this, but I've thought about it, is like they will show up with like gift cards for everyone on the AV team. Of like
Hmm.
here's a Starbucks card, here's a Tim Hortons card, or something like that. It's just oh yeah, no, here, thanks for all your work, guys. But normally that is for the guys with the really complicated AV setups and where they
Yeah,
it's
because
different.
sometimes they don't really want to do it.
No. But I mean
Hmm.
it's that for everything, right? Like even when you're taking a listing, like know who has any level of control in the process, from like the sign guy to, you know, the photographer, like all of them. Like better you treat them, the more likely when you need them, they will jump faster. And that's important.
So I'm looking right now at the chat,
Yeah.
and right now, it doesn't look like we have anybody from the live show
What?
earlier this week, but that was
We
something
have
we were
someone from
talking about just
Paris.
now. Paris, Ontario, and London, Ontario.
Yeah,
Ontario, you
just doing
guys
the world.
setting a trend. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, the other London. Um,
Yeah.
Now with what we had done on stage, this was kind of interesting because whenever we're going into like a specific city, the first thing that we're normally talking about is who are we talking to and how do they feel right now?
No.
And so you take a look at some market statistics and you can kind of see if they feel like, there's lots of fruit on the trees right now, or if they feel like, man, you gotta hit a lot of trees before there's some fruit. And
I've noticed the tones now this time of year are different than this time last year.
tell me more about that. So last year, what do you think the tone was as we closed January?
It was a lot of uncertainty mixed with fear
Mm,
and like worry. Like that, I felt like last January at events, that was way more common. This year, it was like the fear was gone.
mm,
I not everyone I would say would be optimistic, but
mm,
they had accepted it. And now it's like, okay, how are we going to make it work? So like there was some like I don't know that optimism is the right word, but there was maybe a hopefulness of like, okay, I've kind of adapted to the reality. Now I'm going to figure out how to make it work. So it's
mm.
like they've accepted the change. There's probably some sort of analysis here on like the stages of grief or something.
Yeah, so last year they
Yeah.
were kind of feeling like, how do I get out of this situation?
No.
Right? They felt that they were deep in the pain, and but it was gonna like the hope was right away.
No.
And now it's almost like they have acclimated to the market and they're realizing that not only is this not a blip, this is like an actual phase change, but also that there is business to be had here. So you don't need a hero to show up like a sudden interest rate change seems to be the
Yeah.
current popular deity to pray to.
But I haven't like even the last couple there hasn't been that same now it's gonna rip, right? Like at the beginning of last
Mm.
year, everyone they're like, oh yeah, it's down, it's gonna rip now again. It's gonna rip now again.
And now they're more talking
Yeah.
about new normal,
Yeah.
right?
That's
So this
the
is
five
now
stages
the
of grief. We're in
landscape.
acceptance now.
Yeah. So as soon as you have accepted where you're at, now it's time to move on and create an action plan to go. And I kind of have a template that I use because my market shifts all the time. Like I'm in
Yeah.
Alberta, and I can tell you that when I was doing mortgages in '05, '06, it was a barn burner. Holy Dinah. That market moved up very similar to how Toronto and Vancouver moved in times like pandemic because oil was hot and everybody was moving there. And then we saw the US financial crisis and we went down. And then we had these years of oil going up to a record in 2014. And then oil fell to a historic low and it was down and then it was way down and then it got worse than that. And then we just stayed there for what seemed like forever. And then all of a sudden, 2020 came along and everybody got busy except us. We were still down. Uh, and it wasn't until the interest rates went up. So when interest rates went up, most people are like, man, things are going to get really bad now. And
That's
it
when we got good.
actually really was a game changing market, a moment for our market because everybody moved there. And then we had the best market that we've seen in a long time, but without oil ever? Like, when
Yeah,
was
that's
the
right.
last time? It would have been decades ago.
Yeah, that was a weird one, but it worked. I mean, someone I was at an event in Saskatchewan, and that someone showed the stats on the screen of like anytime the rest of the country goes down, Alberta and Saskatchewan goes up. When the rest of the country typically goes up, Alberta and Saskatchewan go down.
Mhm.
So
So, if you're ever wondering how to read it, one of the best tools to learn how to use, and it's not something that we're going to go in detail with right now, but perhaps we could do it in the future, is a SWOT analysis.
yeah,
So when you take a look at your market and you're like, okay, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and you kind of tie them together. So, where do I have strengths and where is there opportunities in the market? Where do I have weaknesses and where are the opportunities associated with like how do I stay out of that zone is basically it. And then are there things that will be threats that will essentially diminish my opportunities or change my strengths and weaknesses?
yeah,
And in there, you can kind of find a way through. Uh, Now, once you can read the market, it's important to identify the winners. So when you think about a lot of these markets that had a streak from 2020 until 2022, those markets they would have had a different playbook than this. Like people buying into the market would have seen it as an opportunity. Now, do people buying into those markets see it as an opportunity?
probably not.
Nope, they see it as a threat. They see if they put their money in something that's falling, their money will fall too.
Yeah,
But that's a short-term vision. But either way, we have to kind of watch for that because I knew every time my market was going down, where you would see investors was not on the ground like you saw them in the hot market. There's no meat on the ground. So, like vultures, they're in the sky. They are circling, I think would be
yeah.
the best description of them.
So you just want to become the vulture.
Yeah, so we were doing a market analysis of a market that's like a little ho hum. And if you're in the chat, you can tell us if you've got a banger right now. But I think that there's plenty of markets right now nationally that are a little ho hum.
Yeah, I think it almost. I don't think there's anywhere that's really ripping. Right, like you guys aren't ripping anymore either.
Define ripping.
Multiple, lots of offers all the time.
I don't know that we were ever ripping then because lots of offers all the time was only
Is it
coming to
just your
single family
listings?
detached dwellings
Yeah.
between 400 and like 650, 700.
Okay.
$1 million, $2 million stuff. Not a lot of action in multiples on those. We saw a little spark of it, but you know
Yeah,
what? This whole time it's been really difficult to move condos, apartment style condos.
that's fair.
Like as soon as they started to get a demand, the market responded with record supply because there were so many people that wanted to sell but didn't think it was real until they saw it.
Yeah, couple people get the price and they're like, oh, I could do that. I'd sell for that.
Yeah, so taking a look at different approaches to reading the market, like Jennifer brought up a different model. I actually think somebody else mentioned that as well, the pestle analysis, where you're
Yeah.
taking a look at like things that could be essentially market drivers or in combination of those things. Because like something like laws, well, every time they close the door, they open a window. And you can see how that could actually mean that if you were in the right position, you would be standing on the border, which is normally where you get to charge tolls.
No.
So there's a few different ways to read the market, but once you read the market, the next thing is to identify who has a clear win and how many steps out it is. So if you can only find like a 13-step plan to a clear win, you're probably looking in the wrong spot. But an example of that let's say a market has moved down 10% and somebody sells an $800,000 house. It's tough to just say you should do this because, from their perception, they're going to be losing $80,000. But if that person is an upgrader, and even in that market, let's say that they only go up 20%, they only go up from 800,000 to a million, where a lot of people that move from 800,000 actually will probably do like a 1.2 as the next one, like a closer to a 50% change. But in that case, they're going to take like $100,000 off of a market that went down 10%. And it's up to us to be able to show them that now when they look at their net is $20,000 in the bank. So you want to see that. And the further that they're upgrading, the more they're going to take off that higher price property. And in every market that I've seen, aside from some exceptions when we had foreign buyers in places like Vancouver and the market was rising from the top, which is super weird,
Yeah.
instead of the fire coming from the bottom. In that but like in the majority of situation, the further you go up the ladder, the further in price you go up, the more of a discount you can get proportionately. So they're actually going to see more than that $20,000 gain in most real examples.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like you want to really start looking at also the individual stats for that in your area. Like look at city and neighborhood, even. Like I remember when I was looking at like, you might see way bigger numbers and a spread that helps you if you look at the local ones, right? It's like, what are the move up? If they're looking to move up, like what is the spread in your area? Like I remember when I did it, not for this specifically, but I was running the numbers on FSBOs in my town. And like there were some stats circulating at the time, and I forget the exact numbers, so I'm just going to make up numbers because it was 14, 15 years ago. But it was something like on average, a FSBO sold for like 2% less in Ontario than if they listed with an agent. And so some people tried to like use that as, see, it's cheaper to sell on your own. We looked locally, and it was closer to like four something, like 4 point something. I forget exactly what, but it was actually they sold for like 4 point something less than the average home if they went with one of like the FSBO companies. So I was like, yeah, that's way better for us is to use the local stats than it is to start using kind of the provincial ones at that time. So it's
And this is
always
part
pulling
of
that.
how Andrew thinks, because what he's trying to do is get a credible reference to market with.
Yeah.
So he wants to be able to say that in this case, for sale by owner properties suffer twice the difference in sale value than they would have been charged in real estate fees, or however he will word it,
Yeah.
so that they can understand end impact.
Yeah.
Right?
But a lot of that, like at the end of the day, numbers will convince someone better than just saying it. Because if you can put it in front of them very directly, then that helps make the argument for you. You just have to be sure you know the numbers well, can back them up, and you haven't missed something that would cause it. Because like you can make almost any numbers say whatever you want. Like have you ever
I would
seen
say
that?
make sure that you can explain it
Yeah.
easily. If you have to explain
Yeah.
it by it's like the derivative of something, then
Yeah.
you're probably going to have trouble if it's challenged. But to draw us
Yeah.
back to our example, we're not talking about FSBOs, we're talking about
Yeah.
that upseller advantage. So what you would want to see is the distance from they call it sale list to sale price ratio. At the middle of the market, maybe up at the top of the market. You could also compare to previous numbers so that you can have something that is defendable. And it's even better if it was tied to an article where somebody was writing about it and
Yeah.
explaining the actual problem. And then once you get there, Now you've got like a package, right?
No.
And you want to test this package first with the people that you know. So the when it comes down to like I know somebody's in the chat talking about market drivers. We're going to get back to you on that. But when it comes down to making your package, imagine that you had like three past clients or five friends that you just wanted to kind of try your language out with. And maybe you lay it out to them and you say, well, actually, the thing that I think that people are talking about right now is when the next interest rate drop is coming. But what they should be talking about is that normally, like when everybody was upgrading in 2020 and 2021, the market was up 10%. So they were buying an $800,000 house that last year was 720, and then they were trying to get into this $1 million house, but now they want 1.1, and see how that jump is like really high and hard. And now they put all their money in the higher price bucket, and now the market's sliding and their money is going down. Whereas what you did is you stayed in your current house and took a little bit of a bump. And it turns out that that little bit of a bump actually made a better situation for you to jump because it's a much shorter jump to that house that was 1 million and is now 900 or close to it.
Yeah, like if and especially if you can put that into like a spreadsheet that you can show them, right? Like again, it's always a better plan to like show, don't tell.
Hmm.
So if you can show them the numbers of like here's that is, and like you're moving in the market, here's what that would look like. Um, that would really go a long way to convince people because they just need to see it. Because like if they're moving in the same market and like they bought a while back, they're winning now.
Yep. So Alexia was talking about this in the chat, saying that she saw some tax changes that didn't have the same effect for everybody. So it made like certain pockets hot and certain like it fragmented the market. And it is good to read about like to read into things like this because then you can take it and be like, oh, where's the river flowing and where is it kind of sitting? Like right now, for most real estate agents in Edmonton, apartment style condos are probably not the people that you want to identify to bring advantages to unless you can see some pretty incredible advantages because that part of our pond isn't moving very much. Meanwhile, the stream where all the fish is like in this entry level, the single family detached in the first segment up there. So it's much more likely that I can find people that have like a benefit there.
No.
And then once you basically decide who to bring, like you want to know your market drivers, you want to understand who's got a benefit, you want to find them, and then you want to start packaging the language. And after that, there's going to be some nuances. Like right now, it's not every move up buyer. Like if they bought last year, they're probably not in a good position, equity position to make that move up jump. In fact, we were talking to a room of people in the general Toronto area, and they were saying that it was like 2018 maybe that you'd need to be. So that becomes like one of your litmus tests. You're talking to somebody in an open house, you're talking to somebody who came in on your website, and you'd be like, "Oh, how long have you been in your place?" And as soon as they say 2016, you in your mind you see this little like green light, like, "Okay, you met one of my checklists."
Yeah, you'll be
And so
fine.
you take that into your conversations, but also into your marketing. So, Andrew, if I wanted to talk to people that had been in their house since before 2018 and maybe catch their interest about me being able to see something that other people can't see from the outside, so it gives them a reason to contact with me, how would you package that? Let's go outreach first. So, if you were just putting this out to strangers, how'd you do it?
So first you want to look at who would the demographics be of the people who bought then, right? So like the most likely buyers that would now be moving up, what was their situation then? What's their situation now? So if in your area that was like they had their first kid and they were moving up to a slightly bigger home, and now they're done kids, they're a little bit older. Now they want that like next home. Okay, now like is it because they just want a little bit more space, a different yard? What is the reasons for it? But figure out where they are now. Then think of okay, what's the type of home that they're really going to need? And then from a content perspective, like contents here is really easy. Like I always go back to like clear is better than clever. Like I would look at potentially like I would do a couple different hooks, but One, I'd play on the idea of like, is it a good time to buy? You know that everyone always says like agents always say it's a good time, no matter what. Open it with instead like, who's it actually a good time to buy right now? Because that's not everybody. And then that hooks people in to be like, oh, I'm curious if I fall in that group. And you can go right into like, listen, if you bought from 2021 to basically now, odds are, unless you have to move, you probably shouldn't, right? Like you can go over the D's, the death, divorce, all that stuff of like, what I can't remember what the third, there's a three D's, right? Death, divorce, and something else.
No, there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Diplomas,
Yeah.
diapers.
Yes, that might have
Yeah,
been
they
it.
turned this
But
into like it basically looks
yeah,
like the Encyclopedia of D. If you look hard
yeah.
enough, all of these people.
There's always something. So we look at, okay, we got those out of the way, like the have to moves, the people who should move and it's a good time. Let's go to this group. And then the video shows that. And then you'd be like, and then you show why. And then you'd be like, yeah, the market up here is down this much. You're doing this. So you can actually close that gap here. And you explain the reasoning why. Then just go to very simple. If you bought in this time and want to see how this actually could look like for you, do this next action. And that can depend on what you have available. So, like, for example, if you created an Excel spreadsheet that they could fill out, you can offer it to them. If you don't want to do any of that, you can just say, like, DM me and I'll talk to you about your situation. Um, like, there's a lot of different approaches you can do as the call to action, but you got to start with that, essentially playing onto that. Did you buy in this era?
Hmm.
Here's why that's good for you. But I think right now playing on the angle because everyone expects you should like agents to say it's a good time is to kind of open with that of like, is it a good time to buy? And then like only for some of you. And then explain why. Because you're playing on that expectation they already have of you always saying it's a good time to buy. That's how I would
Mm.
approach that one.
That's great. So you're getting that intrigue. You're giving them a reason to contact you. They are getting some type of explainer, so it gets you past that
No,
initial like objection for them to click, which is like, this looks like a scam.
yeah. And because again, they're always going to assume that you're going to tell them that it's a good time to buy. So you have to give them at first the here's the group it's not. Here's how we look at who is winning in this market. And
Hmm.
then it's just finding, and it's like literally looking at in your like for your demographic, how would that wording best resonate with them? And that's going to be different depending on who you're trying to work with. And that you just got to test it out.
Yep. So once you bring this out to people, then it's hopefully going to cue the conversation on the phone. And that's where you're going to want to do two things, and it's rapport build and qualify. So if somebody came through responding to an ad like this, where maybe they came through as a lead and you're calling them, you always want to set it up with a great greeting. We always say that it's tone first. So if you don't sound interested in this call, why the hell should they be interested in this call? There's already things working against you, stranger danger, and the rest.
Yeah.
Also, text to call could be a big, good way to move it. Like, hey, just saw you inquiring on uh, this ad that we were running, or inquiring from Facebook, wherever they were, so they can kind of connect the dots. Is now a bad time for a call?
No.
And so I like that question because it's harder to field from the other side. They already have a preconceived answer for is now a good time. It's never a good time to talk to a salesperson. So that was easy. But if you say, is it a bad time for a call? They're like, no, not a bad time. Or they'll give you a frame, which is the best answer. Because if it's 4 minutes, use 4 minutes and request to go longer. But post, make sure that you're on that. And then be like, Andrew, I don't want to keep you past the 4 minutes you promised me, but if this, like, if you can go a little bit further, I can tell you more about this, or we can set a time to meet if he
Yeah.
meets my qualification.
Yeah. I mean, it's back to the are they friendly and engaging is part of the Dean Jackson 5-star prospects, right? Like they have to be
Yeah, you could
friendly
try to
and
convince them
engaging.
all,
Yeah.
but why you want to climb the North Face all the time, right?
No.
It's the hardest side to climb. So if I get to talk to somebody like Andrew and he is like nice enough and like probably has some defenses on the way in, but once the conversation starts to go, then we can frame it up. So I let him know that everybody around him says the market is awful, but the truth is that that's because if it was awesome when you bought, it is awful now,
No.
right? But I think the market might have been awful when you bought. Like, and if Andrew had bought in 2016, well, then he'd probably say, yeah, it wasn't very good. I had a trouble selling my last place to get into this one. And it's like, Andrew, you did it last time without even knowing you did it, where you upgraded in a down market. So it was tough to get that one out. But I bet you just laid a ground pounding on your purchase. And he might not know. He might say, I don't really know. Like, I thought we might have been able to get more of a deal. Well, hey,
And
that's why you're talking
question,
to me and not your past realtor. So let's do
yeah.
that this time.
There's a question from Jeff. Why ask? Why not assume it's a good time? They answered the call, right?
Hmm. So their experience is they're going to get a number they don't recognize with a time limit. That's what a phone call is. Do you want to talk to a stranger in the next 10 seconds? Message received. Or they're going to get a text message that says, hey, this is Taylor. I saw you just came in off Facebook because quick turnaround, real tight. I saw that you had just inquired that you wanted more info on our post on Facebook. Is now a bad time to talk? Or I have my phone right now. Can you talk? Either way, you can go into this find your own spot. But the probability of them answering that phone call now actually goes up. And it's about being able to be convincing. So you want to craft good messages that get you those open rates. You can definitely A/B test this, Jeff. Call 5, text 5, use larger numbers, get a full sample size. But the idea is that how do you get on that phone call? And then if you have a shit greeting, your phone calls are going to be 5 seconds or less. So now you got to develop a great greeting. And then it's going to be like, these people don't want to actually talk to me. And it's like, yeah, you got to be both interesting and interested. Figure it out. And then your calls start to do this thing that I call coming to a boil, where the other person is in the flow state of conversation. And while it's in the boil, I can kind of slide it around, especially if I stay inside of context. Because if you hit the salesperson alarms, the buzzers go off, the time limit starts, and you better be able to close because it's over. So instead of being like, so how much money do you have? What's your price range? What that tells them is that I'm a great candidate for a 4-digit transaction. I could probably sell those roof rack things. I might be able to sell some really high-end clothes, but I have no business in a 7-digit transaction. Because at 7 digits, you should play better than that. Or 6 digits. So the way that we might put that is, did you have someone else help you establish your budget? I really want to know if they met with a lender. I'm asking a question that sounds like I'm on their team, and I'm not judging them. And that's something that can really work, or I can do an assumptive statement or an assumptive question. Hey, how'd the meeting at the bank go? I'm going to get to what's your price range, but I'm going to do it in a way where they don't feel any invasion. They actually feel like I'm like helping us collect tools to go forward. Same thing if I want to feel around if they have been working with another agent. I don't want them to turn that into a defense because I make them claim their agent by saying them. So instead of saying, so you got an agent? Oh, you working with anybody? I go in the side door. Have you seen many houses? Oh, how are you seeing those houses? Now they're going to tell me listing agents, open houses. And if they have been working with an agent, this is actually where they complain about them. Yeah, we've been working with this guy, Cam, but he kind of looks like he lives in his mom's basement and he's 20, 25 minutes late. Ugh. Sorry, Cam. You just lost your client. This one's mine now. Should have signed him. I don't care.
Yeah, you got to be careful to like. Still remember this very clearly from when I sold. When these people came into my open house, and I asked if they had an agent, and they said right away they were like, yes. And then I just started like asking a couple more questions. And then as we kind of dug deeper, turns out that they didn't just have an agent. They had six different agents sending them like the MLS auto renewal thing. And they're like, because eventually I realized they hadn't signed with an agent. And I was like, well, do you want me to send you listings as they come up? And they should open their phone. And because like the MLS in Trev at the time, and it probably is the same now, it's the same property or subject line for every single, just all caps, properties of interest. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and literally they had it, and like their line at the time was, "Oh no, we don't care who. We just whoever sends us a listing first, that's who we work with." Which
Yeah.
funny side to that is because that was their strategy. I figured out what time Treb auto sent the email, and I woke up 30 minutes before and sent all the listings because then I was always
Hilarious.
first. It worked.
There's always a way to see the pattern and then to find that disruption on the way through. Alexa was talking about timeline. I like that, but I actually use that tool in a different spot. So for me, I know the difference between a dream and a goal is a date. And if I ask somebody, so when do you imagine being in your new house, like living there? And they say, oh, when we find the right one, awesome. Let's keep dreaming. Tell me the dreams. Go bigger. I'm not going to ask you any real questions. Let's just, spend some time in the clouds. Um, and then you find these other people that they're like, well, definitely by the time school starts. And then I decode that with them. And I'm like, oh, okay. So school starts for the kids. How old are the kids? I'm going to collect information about their family right now. And I'm going to get family, occupation, recreation, and dreams without getting caught, without setting off a single alarm. And I'm doing it through these side doors because they open the door about school and then I'm just interested. And I'm going to be interested twice. It's a method called going too deep. Going too deep. So, oh, really? How many kids do you have? Oh, and what ages are they? Now it's too deep. And that conversation could continue, but if I've got what I need, then we're going to go back. And then we're going to talk about the other things that might be important. So if their school's important, that could tie to their timeline as well. So are you guys moving to the same school district or the same or a different one? I'm going to pick up some information about location. And then I'm going to give have an opportunity to build rapport with advice. And I could say, you know what? A lot of the families that we help, they actually like to be in the new house before the August long weekend. Because then they get about 2 weeks to unpack the place, 2 weeks to kind of feel like they're settled in. Kids are exploring the neighborhood, met their first two friends, and they have this like warm up for that first day in September. So right now, we're here in January. We want to land in September. Let's walk it back. So that means that you should be shopping in July. And that means that, well, actually, is there anything that you have to do with your house now? What's up?
Oh no, you're good.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were
Yeah.
popping your
No,
headphones off like somebody was at your door.
no, we're
Uh,
good.
so you build it back to get to where you are now. And right now, what I'd be telling people is basically the experts I know in lending, they're seeing the bond yield rise and they're actually expecting those fixed interest rates to start to move upward. So even though you're not a shopper until we would probably suggest that you be shopping in like end of May, early June, that might be something that you want to do earlier so that you can get that locked in. And then if rates go up, you get the better deal. But if they go down, you get the better deal. And then also to basically tie in if they have a property to sell. So now I'm going to come back into our strategy where as soon as they say that they have a property to sell, I'm great. I want to set the appointment right now. I'm going to come to their house. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what? In order to answer the question that you need about buying a house, you need some puzzle pieces. You need to know how much the one is that you have is worth, how much money you're going to have coming out of that one so that you can kind of see the options set on the other side. We do this all the time. I'm going to come by for a strategy session, and then we'll also talk about how you can end up owning two houses for 10 days so moving and cleaning is easy.
So we have a question here, and I don't know if you have. I don't. Do you have any experience with a company called Leads on Demand?
I've experienced with all the companies that feel like that. But
Yeah.
like Leads on Demand, my guess is from the name that what we're talking about is paying a service that does forced registration web leads.
Yeah, it would appear that, and they do it not just for real. Well, I actually know one of the agents on their website, so I can ask him,
Hmm.
and I'll find out. But it says it's someone with a lot of deals closed, and I'm not sure he's actually closed that many deals. Yes, I do. Leads under created by the owner of the guy who created Search Realty. I've heard of Search Realty, but outside of I've heard of it. I also don't know anything about that.
I want to talk
But
about the contrast to this.
yeah,
So, when you're looking at most inexpensive lead generation programs, so let's talk about what expensive looks like. One of the most expensive lead generation programs out there would be like companies like Zillow. In some
yeah,
markets, they charge 40, 45, 50% of any commissions earned as a fee for their service.
yeah.
And then, but they may have changed their menu. I can't guarantee that that's where their
Then
pricing is now.
change market to market too.
And also, the amount you charge as commission is going to change. There's going to be differences there too, because that's not standardized. But when we go to the low end for leads, basically what they're doing is showing pictures of houses and playing games to get people to click stuff. That's like the game. So if they say outrageous things about houses, but they mainly use property that's local to you because otherwise these leads would be irrelevant. And then after that, these people often don't know why you're calling or what you're calling about. So that's the start of most of the conversations is who is this? And you make, again, just like I was talking about those survival tactics of the phone call, you try to get through the first 5 seconds and you make a strategy of this and then you get it rolling. And what you're trying to do is sort things out because if you were to take an 18-month timeline, the statistics are somewhere around 8% of all the leads that you pull in over an 18-month timeline will do business with you if you are skilled.
8? I would have gone a little bit lower.
What do you think it is?
Over an 18-month timeline, 5, if you're
Hmm.
good. Because like
Yeah, it really
the way we
depends.
look at it
I've
too,
worked
right?
with
Is
like so for me, I dialed it back because I've worked
yeah,
with some of the highest cost like non there's some companies that have like ISAs and they basically deliver you clients. But when you're doing it yourself, where they make leads and you do the conversion, I've worked with some
yeah,
pretty high flying birds on that side, like Curator and Wilopo and some cool stuff
yeah.
from the States.
And but so like the way that I kind of look at it a lot is right, like let's say the first year you convert 2%, slightly above average. It's pretty good. But then like next year you convert 2 again, then you're gonna get 1% of last year's leads.
Yep.
That starts adding up, and then most people then get to 5. Like I've actually seen very few ever that are consistently even over 7
Hmm.
if you're not changing how you calculate.
So it's very different where what we were talking about is making a filter because that's what they don't talk about is lead quality. So imagine the difference between somebody who saw a house that they wanted to see the inside of. So that would be the basic criteria of a forced
Yeah.
registration web lead. And then they clicked on it and that's what became your opportunity versus Andrew had made an ad that travels on that talks about how it's a difficult market, but not for everybody. And you might be one of the exclusive ones if you've been in your house since before 2018. So now you have this qualifier, and that works like a filter. So the people that you pull through that is going to have a much higher probability of close. They're in a
Yeah.
more actionable position. We know more about them when they come in, but they will also be in a lower concentration, which is not a bad thing. When you take a look at pulling in 100 leads, you have to look at the actions behind that. So you have 100 leads, 100 names and numbers right now. Like if you were just doing the first thing that came to mind, that's 100 phone calls,
Yeah.
right? And it's not just 100 phone calls, it's 100 phone calls within 7 minutes of when they come in. The consumer's expectation is that tight. You know why? Next website, call. Next website, call. Like they're just like whichever one of you door openers also knows how to work a phone, we're going to work with
Yeah.
until they
And
meet somebody they connect to.
And this is typically if we're doing that direct response style marketing, these numbers we're talking about. Like if you get into content marketing, like you could be anywhere from 30 to 70% conversion rate. But
Hmm.
if anyone ever tells you they're doing 30% conversion rate, they're not doing forced registration. Or they're only counting people they get on the phone with and like are qualified to move. And it's just, are they moving with them or not? Right? Like
So let's
people
talk about
fudge
those two
numbers.
differences as well and how hard it
Yeah.
is between the two. So if you are a fan of stand-up comedy, you may be familiar with people that are known, right? So for example, like Matt Rife, people that probably the biggest nameable comedian might be like Dave Chappelle, if you're for just comedy. And in that case, when they go to wherever they go, those people are going to see them with intention.
No.
All right. That is a content marketer. Yeah. If you were looking for a Canadian example, Tom Story. Every time he says something, there's people that have already decided they wanted to hear that on YouTube and wherever else they've subscribed.
No.
And then when you go to the other side of it, think about your first day as a stand-up comedian. You're going to an open mic where not a lot of people even go because they'd have to care about the origin of stand-up comedy or just that's the place they like to drink. And that's where you start. And you have to be funny to those strangers right now, no matter who they are and where they came from. That's incredibly freaking hard. So the conversion of those two different people where one group is like, oh man, I get to meet you, the guy I saw on YouTube. And the other person is like, hey, who is this? You have 1 second to get me to keep going.
Yeah.
Very
Like, and I
different.
can tell you, like, I've talked about this with my team all the time. Like, my conversion rate is shockingly low on calls where they don't know who I am ahead of time. If they already know who I am, they've watched videos, it's not really a question of like anything except is now the right time for them and their
And
business.
And with real estate, that question is very strong on both sides. We had Ray
Yeah.
Ellen on the podcast. He was talking about the makeups of his market evaluation, and it absolutely changed mine when he was able to basically distill it down to is now the right time? Am I the right agent? And what is the right price when he's talking to sellers? And on
Yeah.
the same side, on the other side, it would basically be is now the right time? Are you the right agent? And what is the right house?
Yeah.
So a lot of people come into real estate saying, I want to buy this house. If you were to do a before and after picture, they never are standing next to that house in the after picture. They're standing next to a house that they couldn't imagine owning, one that through your experience you introduced them to. And that's because, if you're good at this, you're good at this.
Yeah.
So tying it back to our strategy, we were talking about like positioning this and then bringing talk tracks and then getting people to come and talk to you about this and doing well enough to present this idea in a compelling way and you start closing these appointments, right? Well, now these appointments are going to lead to some different listings than most people have had in a market that's going down where sellers outnumber buyers. Because instead of being priced over and having crossed fingers with hopes and dreams and telling that agent, what are you doing to sell my house? Instead, these people are going to give you advanced consent with the evidence presented to them beforehand to list their property in a place where buyers will respond. So buyers will respond. The market rewards accuracy. But what's crazy is when you have an accurately priced property in a place where no one else has one, now you're talking fire. So when you bring those listings to the market, I know that it used to be like a mechanism of a hot market that you did coming soon. But now these listings are hot. People are going to want to talk about them. They're going to want to see them. And the timeline when that is yours and yours alone is called coming soon. So even in a market where you don't think that anybody cares when a new listing comes on to MLS because there's just so many, right?
Yeah.
You're doing a dance for the neighbors. You put up the coming soon signs and they're like, look at this guy. He must be so new. He's not even jaded yet. Then those coming soon signs roll into an open house and they're like peeking back the drapes and they're like, holy crap, Karen, there's like 5 people there. I've never seen 5 people in like years at an open house. And then suddenly these people are people that Andrew talks about wanting updates. And you get to call them next week and say, in a market where everyone is terminated, where they're all expired, where there's only one buyer for three sellers or for five sellers. I've done one buyer versus 11 sellers. And what I mean by that is that's how many failed versus the ones that succeeded. And in that case, they see you win. You'll never be more popular than when somebody else just saw you win. And that's something that's missing from real estate right now is people being excited about their solds. Right now, we view a sold sign as crawling to the finish line at a marathon with like smelling poorly because we have shat ourselves. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can
Uh,
get consent in advance instead of over promising and trying to deliver in a market that's like changing and heading downward.
what's your average days on market right now?
37.
Well, that's probably, I mean, is that better or worse than usual for you the last like few years?
Mid. But like most of my career, my days on market has been over under 60.
So pretty good. What's
Mhm.
the expectation from your clients on days on market? That's what I'm always curious about because that can be very different across the board too.
My expectation from my clients are the expectations that we give them. So we
No,
make
but
sure to cover those
before
things.
you tell them, like, are they coming in with like preconceptions of what the average days on market is? Or what?
I think that most of them don't know, but they've heard news about it because they've been paying attention. So they would see that the market's around 37,
Yeah.
but they don't know how to quantify that either because they don't know that 37 normally means that they actually had a deal at around 27 to 30 days. And if it's 37 average in the marketplace, that's actually the time it takes for the average agent and their clients to solve the puzzle. And if you can
Yeah.
see it accurately, it should be different than that.
Yeah. So you should be aiming for 20
Yeah, I'm
to
trying.
get
We
the
just did
offers
our
in.
listing stats. I'm going to pull this up because this was homework. Um,
So while you come live, you get to watch us pull up things on the computer.
yeah, well,
It's
you
the best
swung
time.
this on me. So this is my performance metrics. So
Yeah.
average days on market was 37, but last year we were 21.
That's pretty.
So we kind of compare it off to that sale to list price ratio. Somebody was talking about that in the chat. The distance of a deal between list price
Yeah.
and sale price. Our market was at 99% last year. That's a pretty strong market when you zoom out. Condos weren't as good, luxury wasn't as good, but our team did 109% as an
Yeah.
average.
I wonder if
And
there's
I
a
think
good,
this is
because
like I've done 2 years now where my average listing is over list price out of my entire career.
I just think there's an interesting angle to play with the year 21 days versus 37
Mm,
in the sense of our clients on average have to keep their home show ready for 2 weeks less than the average. Because that's like the day-to-day pain point for a lot of sellers is like keeping the home show ready on the market.
yep.
So like
We
playing
do
with
talk
that
about
pain
that a
point.
little bit.
Yeah.
Because when the people that matters the most to are families with kids. And so
Yep.
when we talk about detached properties, our average is actually 18 days on market. So
Yeah.
we're doing it in half the time. And that's what we would say. Like, you know what? Imagine every showing you had to do two. Every day you had to do two. We're gonna take the load off.
Yeah. We're gonna save you this much time. Because I
Hmm.
think that's better than saying like, here's how many like mortgage payments we've saved by getting a deal quicker.
Yeah. So again, we're going to get evidence like we did, and then we're going to be able to process it. So Andrew can like turn it into better language that people understand. Like, see how he thought just there? He's like, "What's their expectation?" And I'm like, "Well, what we tell them." And he's like, "No, it's not. They have something that you like. If you don't know this, it's because you didn't ask."
Yeah, like everyone has it, right? Because they watch the news, they look at what like because a lot of people don't follow real estate the same way that
Hmm.
like obviously we would. So like you think of like the first year when the market changed, that challenge of everyone expecting that they could still get offers in a week, they could still get over, and it took a while for people to accept the reality. Um, Now that reality might be okay, maybe I can't get as much, but I should still be able to sell it as quickly. What if you have
Yeah.
a condo?
And we
You
boiled
know?
it down. We say like, will my house sell?
Yeah.
Will I leave money on the table? And will this be a hassle or drag out? Those are kind of the pain points that a lot of sellers are dealing with.
No.
But the
Alexis
real
says
question
94 days
is,
on average is hers.
whoo, spicy.
Yeah. That is some seller management you got to practice. You got to be tight on that.
Yeah, and that's something that's important as well, is like a lot
Yeah.
of the times if the market is descending, then it's difficult to basically get somebody to price where the market will be by the time the property is on the market, because like days and weeks matter depending on like the statistical trend and how slopey it is.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, it's a lot of giving people more context to understand what chasing the market looks like. So the price that would have sold your house is the same, but you got there 2 weeks late, 3 weeks late, 5 weeks late, so on and so forth, and that has moved down. So now you're chasing, and if you move down at the same pace as the market, like if we were to be able to tell the future and see the slope of downward trend, and you keep following the market like this, you are going to continually be in chase. We already have enough evidence to know that you haven't found the market. We already know that we're chasing. We can see by this week's sales that the market is down significantly. And so we should move the price down until you can feel the market with offers, because everyone is so worried about low offers, where the biggest actual threat to sellers in real estate is no offers.
No, it's stressful. All right. We're good.
Yeah, we're going to post here. We posted 5 minutes early. The production team's going to be really happy, and we're just going to close up shop now. No, I'm just kidding. So the big thing out of this is like, imagine if you had one listing that sold, you could influence the people that can see that. If you had 3 listings or more, you're the person that can do this consistently. That's like where that door opens. So now you get like a different marketing package that you can bring to people like, hey, listen, we've been doing this all spring, but did you know? And now you can call more people in because you have a proven process where everybody else is lined up with their Jeeps, inviting people that they can be the guide for the jungle. And they're all begging them, just get in the Jeep. We'll figure it out. You want the Jeep to go faster? You want the Jeep to go slower? But when you have evidence, you can look at them. When you're credible, you can be like, listen to me or you're going to die. And they'll do it.
There's a call someone earlier, and I kept going back to this thing that we even talked about in this show too, of like show don't tell. Like when you like literally show them how you've done it, right? Like pull up your most recent sales, and like even if you have to do it live, because you don't have it built out, is like treat it like a case study. Like, hey, here's a listing we just sold. Here's what we did to get this result. That was this much better. Don't frame it as happy accident, because you also want to think about how are other agents framing their wins in the market, right? So like you can see this on social, because I mean I do, because I have enough agents in my feeds, is they always compare themselves to the average, and then you have other agents who say here's why that's BS, because the average agent does crap. Here's what productive agents do. And then they show the numbers lower. And if you don't compare to that number that people are saying, where do you own that? So you do want to pay attention. Like locally, what are people saying? How is like the main competition that would be looked at? So think about like who are you most competing with listings? How are they wording the challenges? And then how do you compare against that? And how can you contrast yourself against that? Don't worry about what everyone else is doing in like across the country. But like I would, it's like even for you, Taylor, like when you think about the main areas you're working in, top 3 competitors, how are they wording things out there? How are they talking about things in their social? How can you position yourself against it?
The only time that I talk about other agents is if I'm comparing experience.
No, you don't talk about them, but when you're looking at how they're positioning things,
Oh,
they're going to
they're
compare
the
that to you.
noise, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to participate in the argument. I want to change the conversation.
Well,
And that's
yeah.
what I mean is that they're saying that this is what I do compared to the average agent.
No.
And what I say is I don't compare to the average agent. They do 12 deals a year. I do like at least 5x that
Yeah.
myself, let alone having a team. So in that case, what I'd rather do is just say, I'm going to give you that for context. So I want you to know that we do this a lot more often, and that gives us a better experience. And then I want to turn it to talk about what happens if they get average results or they get our results. I want to talk about average results versus our results. I don't want to talk about agents.
Yeah. And you can even frame it as like, hey, the top five agent, like you have to pull these stats, obviously, but it's like, here's the top five agents. You don't name them. You're like, here's an aggregate of the numbers of the top five agents in our area. Now compare that to yours
Well,
if
I
it's
would play
favorable.
that, Mark. If you think that you're in competition, then it makes sense to address why you're the right agent, because that's
Yeah.
one of the things that they're going to do. But sometimes it doesn't need to be a contrast like that if you're the one they feel more comfortable with.
Yeah.
And really understanding your three uniques. So I'm a team, and if I'm going against two other individual agents, I know where I'm going to try to keep the ball. It's going to be power play time, right? Whereas if I was an individual agent and I was playing against a team, I would be talking about how it's not personal and they're just a factory. Like you play the other side.
It's just a number.
Yeah, like
Mm,
that's where you win is by changing the conversation instead of trying to say we do everything they do.
yeah. But it's
Hmm.
always looking for those opportunities where the contrast works out in your favor.
And if you're listening to this podcast in the recording, this is your opportunity to go do whatever the heck you're going to do. But if you're here live, it's your opportunity to hang out with us for the next, until we're done chatting about it. So if you got questions, come into the chat. If you're not in this part of the show, then you should be next time. There is a Zoom link. You can find it on the Real Estate Magazine website under our podcast, which is called The Leads Are Sht. And we're out of here. Thanks, guys. And
And
thanks for coming to the
next
boat show.
week, you will have a guest co-host with Taylor because I'm not going to be here. And I don't
Yes.
think Taylor's found anyone yet, but you got to.
Yep, I definitely have a couple of people that are about to confirm, and then we'll have to tell
Perfect.
one of them they
Let
can't
us
come.
know.
Uh,
Perfect. We are good.
all
So
right, see you
I'll
next
see
time.
you guys in 2 weeks. Taylor will see you in 1 week, and we'll see everyone here live in right now.